It's time for Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on in to another edition of Bringing the Heat. I am Trey Lyle, your host. Caleb Barnes set to join us in a matter of moments. But first, let's head to the Inferno segment, the driver of the number 2 for Richard Childress Racing in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, the soon-to-be next season driver for the Wood Brothers in the 21. Our own Danny Peters talked to him at Sonoma about his season, his future, and much more. The defending NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series champion Jesse Love now heads into the Inferno.
Now it's time for...
This week he changed the screensaver on his phone to a picture of he and his dad working on his race car when he was a little kid. Jesse Love hoping to celebrate with his old man. And he's a half a lap away. Past his best friend to get the lead. It is a storybook ending. 20 years old from California. Jesse Love wins at Phoenix, and he is the 2025 Xfinity Series champion.
To go into the Inferno with Trey.
Jesse Love, Menlo Park boy. Good to be home.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to come home and see family. My mom's cooking, and then I have a couple restaurants I like to go to eat. Not really restaurants, but lunch spots and stuff. And yeah, it's always fun to drive around and get really good food. We don't really have the food in North Carolina that we do out here. So yeah, it's always fun to come home and still get to put in good work and get to go surf a little bit and do some things I grew up doing. So I don't really get to do it very often. I feel like I come to California, maybe twice a year.
Coming home was a big part of what you were when you were on NASCAR Rising. You're like, I look forward to this every single time. When were you able to get up here after Coronado? What's it like just every time rolling back up?
Yeah, I really enjoyed San Diego, so stayed down there until Monday night, and then flew home Monday night and been up in NorCal since then. So yeah, it's been great, and I really enjoyed San Diego too. Obviously, SoCal and NorCal are two different animals, but I really enjoyed both of them for different reasons.
So 12th of your first year, 38th difficult race last year. What's your hopes for the weekend?
Yeah, really interesting stat line here. I feel like, the first year here, I think we were actually really good. I think we ran second for most of the race or something like that, and we were pretty good. We were competitive, probably third place car. Ty, Gibbs, and SVG were really fast, but the next year I thought I closed the gap a little bit, and I think qualified third or fourth, and yeah, I thought that was probably the one road race where I feel like I was, had a pretty good shot to, race with SVG and Connor, and then, had that rear axle break. So, again, I think my first year here had a pit road problem, and then I ended up actually spinning out racing the guy in turn 10. So, been bad finishes here, but, probably our best track for speed, probably the track I understand the most. Got a good bit of laps here, and fits my driving style, so feel like I'm always competitive when I come here, and we'll have a good shot. We execute everything well and run a good race. I think obviously you got to be in the top 4 at the end of the race to have a shot to win, and I think it's definitely more than doable. And try to maximize the points we can get, maintain track position, and should have a good shot.
Did you come here as a kid with your family?
Yeah, my first NASCAR race was here. I think it was the year. I think it might have been maybe one of Jeff's last years, or maybe it was the year that Tony won his race here against Denny.
On turn 11.
Yeah, I don't fully remember. I was really young. But anyway, yeah, that was my first NASCAR race. Here's my mom's first NASCAR race that same weekend. So it was pretty cool. I remember we sat in the S's and watching those little concrete stands they have.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. So I really enjoyed it and always loved coming up here. I got to run a Legend car race here, actually, which is pretty fast here in a Legend car, a little single-seater. But and then got to test drive a Miata here before I flipped it out of the park. So it was definitely, I have a couple of different laps here in some different cars.
You grew up as a Jeff Gordon fan?
I did, because my dad grew up racing with Jeff. They were good friends. Raced quarter midgets at Baylands and some tracks around here. And yeah, it was, Jeff was always, really kind and good to us. And John Bickford was always a really great mentor to me and my dad. and the first NASCAR shop I went to was Hendrick Motorsports to meet Jeff and John and hang out. And then it was always cool when you come to Sonoma because you can go to Calistoga after and watch sprint car races, which unfortunately isn't a thing anymore. But yeah, I always grew up liking the guys that came from California, took the sprint car path as well. Always, respected the hell out of those guys. So, yeah.
Speaking of the Northern California background, why did it kind of work for you, just the Northern California racing scene as a whole?
Good question. I mean, I think the quarter midget stuff teaches you some good things with some racecraft, right? How to make speed being wide open is an interesting technique. And while I think, there's a lot to be gained, go-kart racing, the quarter midget stuff, there's still some things you can learn there that you don't really learn anywhere else. So I ended up growing up doing that. And then you have the Red Bluff Outlaw scene here with the Outlaw karts. Those are, really important for development too. Good dirt racing here. Again, I think, California sprint car guys, especially the ones that, venture out and run East Coast stuff, Midwest stuff, are I feel like the best, sprint car guys. And, the midget scene's kind of died down a little bit, but, I feel like a lot of the guys out here are really good and specialized to their craft. So I got to run a bunch of different types of race cars while I was out here and kind of do it in a low pressure environment. It's so different on the East Coast. So, I definitely, enjoyed running all the different cars I got to race and on the West Coast. I include going to Vegas and running the Legend stuff and the Bandolero stuff at the Bull Ring and also on the road course out there. And then also running the Junior Late Model Series. I feel like that gave me seat time in a heavy stock car at a really young age. And of course, running the pavement midget stuff, I feel like, was the most important for my development because those cars are so on edge and you have to drive them so hard to make speed. So, it's kind of a plethora of a lot of things.
From a bigger picture lens, you mentioned kind of just all the different guys who've kind of made it. Yourself, Gordon, Reddick, Larson. For predominantly Southern sport, there's a lot of Northern California influence. Why do you kind of think that is, and kind of people may not necessarily see Northern California as this kind of driver development hotbed?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like California has made a lot of the best drivers. I don't know if that's just luck of the draw. I don't know if that's just bias because that's what I'm looking at because I'm from there, or if it is there's some things that make it real. I just think that when you're on the East Coast, when you're only on the East, when you're born on the East Coast, you're born on the East Coast racing out there, and then you don't ever leave the East Coast, right? But when you're born on the West Coast, you're learning kind of some different philosophies and driving some different cars, racing some different people, and then you move out to the East Coast. So then, the guys that grew up on the East Coast don't ever had that time on the West Coast to hear some different things, run some really tricky racetracks. I mean, a lot of the dirt tracks that I guess all the guys you mentioned grew up racing, it's really technical and rough and, pretty sketchy in some areas, right? So California dirt tracks are definitely a lot different than anywhere else. You go to Midwest and it's, super glass slick and smooth, and on the West Coast it's crazy and pulled up and technical. So I just think that it's all perception and you can kind of broaden your horizons a little bit when you grow up on the West Coast, and that can, make you better down the road.
Some big names have won back-to-back O'Reilly Auto Parts Series championships. What would it mean to you to go back-to-back and be the first in Reddick?
Yeah, it's definitely my thing I'm aiming for, right? This year we've had a lot of things, some in our control and some out of our control. Like a lot of people would call it luck. I don't really use that word, but most people would call it just bad luck. But we've had a pretty trying year, and that's kind of been my North Star of what's keeping me motivated through all of it, is that I'm still in a great position to win another championship. And it was nice to finally get some points on Allgaier last weekend, but it's gonna be really, really challenging to get to him to win the regular season title. But I have this weird mental block that it's not over until it's mathematically not possible anymore. So I'm still focused on winning the regular season title, and then when the chase starts and when the postseason starts, I always feel like I rise to the occasion and I can be the best, and I think our team can be the best. And last year we didn't have the speed to really win races and dominate a lot. We had a couple, but we executed really well. And this year we've actually have the speed to finally dominate races and win races, and we just haven't put it together yet. So I think that we were able to overcome the speed factor last year, and this year we have overcome the speed factor, and we have to overcome the beating ourselves on some things. And also, it's kind of like golf, right? Like, you keep hitting terrible golf shots, like the flush ones, right around the corner. So I think that once we break through and win one, we'll win a couple, and then I think in the postseason our team's really good under pressure, and hopefully we're the best this year under pressure.
Last couple of questions. Next year you step into an iconic car number with an iconic team. Just thoughts, feelings about that for next year?
Yeah, I'm super honored, and obviously to have the trust from the Wood brothers and of course Ford as well, and everybody at Team Penske is a huge honor for me, and something that I don't take lightly. So that's definitely it's gonna be a new challenge, right? And that's what I love about it. I never had any intentions to get a cup deal signed and then just take it easy and chillax, right? I want to keep working, and that's what I find enjoyment in, right? Is chasing the mastery of my craft and what I do and what I love to do, and getting better. So next year there's gonna be a lot of ways that I'm gonna keep learning to get better, and just you want to succeed and move up, and of course continue to race cup and get into your second contract year and win races and set yourself up for success. So I'm really grateful I can do that from a young age, and I just feel like I have a great group of people around me also to help me succeed next year in a tough environment in the Cup Series.
Have you been to the museum yet? And what's your kind of first memory of Wood Brothers?
Not yet. Haven't been to the museum yet. Actually, I was talking to Ross Chastain, who's never driven for the Wood brothers, but he's somebody with a deep respect for that whole team, their history, and obviously they've got more history in the Cup Series than any other team, right? So I'm looking forward to getting down there. Obviously, timing of those things have to be appropriate, right? Right now, I'm obviously still focused on RCR and my job here and Team Chevy and Wheeling and all our partners to go win a championship. So it is hard for me to balance that right now, but I am the driver that is fully bought into whatever program he's at currently and wants to make it better and succeed. And when that day comes, when it's my time here at RCR has come to an end, I'll be fully bought into the Wood brothers and their history and Ford and making a better place. That's what I intend to do.
What will it be like with a new voice in your ear? Obviously you have a good relationship with your crew chief, but what will it be like next year with a new voice?
Yeah, it's something interesting. I'm somebody, I feel like, again, maybe it's grew up in California where you have a melting pot of different cultures, but I feel like I can fit into just about any culture and work with different people, and I do enjoy the personal development, the people development, the relationships developing and things like that, and the lessons I've learned from Danny I'll never forget. And I don't know, I think that we're still going to be friends off the racetrack, right? He's more than a crew chief to me at this point, and maybe not working together might make the friendship a little bit better so we can kind of take the pressure off. But it's going to be different, and it's going to be a challenge because Danny's somebody that I really love and appreciate, love working with as well, and have a ton of respect for. But I know whatever position the Wood brothers decide to put me in is going to be a good one, and I'll make the most of it.
Last question, have you been watching Team USA in the World Cup, or have you been watching the World Cup in general?
No, I have no interest in soccer. I have a lot of respect for the sports, and I love athletes, and Messi is somebody that I have, not studied, but read a lot about and listened a lot about, and I guess he's with Argentina, right?
Yes, sir.
Which I, kind of on TikTok, I see kind of the different teams and stuff. I don't know how Argentina loses, but I heard, again, that USA is in a good spot. I saw they lost yesterday, but they're still in, I guess, Group D. But my mom's whole side of the family's from Mexico, so
very excited.
I'm obviously rooting for America, but my half of the house is also rooting for Mexico. I saw they had a pretty big win the other night because they were all screaming while I was trying to go to bed. But no, I see it because it's probably the biggest deal in the world right now, I guess. But I don't follow it now.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks so much to the great Danny Peters, the folks at Richard Childress Racing, and, of course, Jesse Love for that conversation. But there is some news to talk about in NASCAR, so let's go with What's Still Hot.
What's Still Hot? It's time to upgrade you on the latest news in NASCAR.
Joining me like he does most weeks is, of course, is Caleb Barnes at Caleb Barnes _ Caleb, glad to have you here. It was talked about by NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell that both Prime and TNT would like more broadcasts, but unlikely to obviously get them anytime soon because the current deal is set through 2031. But it does feel, fans have been craving for more Amazon Prime. Specifically, it feels like TNT with a lot of the same crew in terms of in the booth and on, in the pit reporting. Obviously, a little bit different with Marty Smith being the studio host, if you want to call it that, compared to Danielle Trotta. It feels like both have done a really good job in the 2 years, year one, and this is year two. Do you see expanded role when the deal comes back up in 2031?
It'll be interesting to see if they do want to expand their role. And I mean, I think I think part of it might kind of depend on the way that F1 goes with Apple TV and all that sort of stuff. I know that they started off F1 was going to be Apple TV exclusive, and then they've had a few different things where they've made some of their races and some of their broadcasting stuff more available to other services. At the same time, I know Prime is getting some more use with football, NFL, that sort of thing, and so I think we'll see how these next couple years go. I mean, 2031 still feels like a long way away. I mean, that's 5 years away. So we'll see, number one, where that continues to go with Prime, their broadcasts, with how much how much work and effort they want to put into NASCAR, how much that maybe grows the base. But that is maybe my concern is again, we'll have to see what the trajectory of the sport is in 3 to 4 years before I would get too excited one way or another. I just feel like I'm still super hesitant to be excited about if it was a full time streaming service. That on one hand there would be a benefit of if you have your sport on one streaming service for the entire season, it's a lot easier for people to find. It's kind of I think people will be more willing to pay for it if they know, there's going to be half the NASCAR season on Prime. But on the other hand, I just know that there's still a large number of households. I still just think about my grandpa, people of his age that are traditional NASCAR fans that don't have internet, or they just don't really know how to work different streaming services like that. So that's still where I would be worried. But again, I think if you come back to me about the trajectory of the sport, we'll see how things are with streaming and with maybe the potential growth of NASCAR in 3 to 4 years. I could be super excited about it. I could want Prime to take the whole season. But yeah, I think the window would be there if they want it. We'll just have to see what those parties want. Same with TNT. All that stuff goes with TNT as well, except for they're maybe a little bit easier to find for someone sitting on the couch with a traditional TV remote on Sunday.
Well, something else that had a successful weekend was Chicagoland. Produced a lot of good racing. I think the O'Reilly race was really good. Cup race was pretty good as well. The big discussion point from this weekend is the future of the Chicago market. Whether it would be just at Chicagoland, just at the Chicago Street Course, or both. It is the third biggest media market in the world. Caleb, if you were deciding, you get to be Ben Kennedy and Steve O'Donnell, what would you decide on the future of the Chicago market and NASCAR's racing impact there?
My preference would be to stick with Chicagoland. The Chicago Street Course was cool. It was a pretty good course, but it also felt like it's just two rectangles pretty much. But I mean, it still put on some good racing. I just think the street course concept is such a good idea to be able to bring to different markets in different places. Although, who knows? Maybe that is something that NASCAR wants to try to make a staple on your schedule. If you want to have an event that be a classic event like the Daytona 500, like the Coke 600, like all these races, the Southern 500, the Bristol Night Race, you got to start somewhere. So if you want the Chicago Street Course in 20 years to be a staple NASCAR event, then it needs to be. But I don't know. I feel like the street course would be is a cool concept to be able to bring to other places. Meanwhile, Chicagoland has been such a great track. Even, I mean, the next gen car has been a good mile and a half car, but even other, before the next gen car and the Gen 6, it was still a pretty good track back then too. And so I would like to see Chicagoland stay there. I know there's been a lot of talk about their infrastructure and some of that. I don't know necessarily about you could put gravel on the parking lots or try to pave it, but that would be a lot of money, and then it might kind of affect some of the tailgating experience. It's really hot to tailgate on concrete as opposed to grass or something like that in the middle of the day. I would like to see the Chicagoland oval race move back to the fall, like it used to be one of the chase races. Maybe not necessarily in the chase, but like one of those last few before, like in late August, or you put it back into the chase/playoffs, whatever we're calling it these days. I think that would be better for weather-wise, kind of like how Watkins Glen had its traditional date and was fine weather-wise, and then this year they had the same parking lot mud issues. So I think you could move that Chicagoland date. And then, who knows, maybe you want to put the Chicago Street Course back on July 4th. So, but yeah, I would prefer to see the oval stay, and then it's up to NASCAR to dream away with their street course concept.
Yeah, I actually I mean, if they're going back to Chicago Street Course, I'd be fine with that. I think that should be more of a rotating piece, but Chicagoland is a great racetrack. It's always delivered great racing. Uh, I think the idea that since it's not in the actual city of Chicago is quickly dying, since it's on the outskirts of Chicago, since the football team is currently set to move to outside their two biggest options for their new stadium are not even in the city of Chicago. And if you have any Bears fans listening, ask them. If you know a Bears fan, they know about that. So I think the idea of Chicagoland be, oh, it's not in Chicago, we're not in the Chicago market, is just blasphemous. So I think there's room for both. I do think, though, you can't have it every year in both markets. Maybe you do a special week in Chicago, like 1 week where you do both, because if you're going to have all these weeks, to limit travel would be more ideal, and they could just stay in Chicago for the week. That would be a creative way to do that. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And now let's update the folks on our in-season challenge. Caleb, we're not doing that bad. We're tied for second amongst the podcast. Mike Neff
Okay.
in first place at 230. We're tied with the Pit Straight at 170. More importantly for us, we're guaranteed not to finish last, and we're beating Happy Hour. So
those are the
both
two
of us
boxes I want to check.
Those two we're checking. Michael is going to be doing our betting podcast through the gears. He is guaranteed to have last place. It hurts that his champion Joey Logano was out in the first round, and so on and so forth. He just had a rough Chicagoland, or rough, Sonoma, and simply put, it was a rough time for him and Joey Logano, being so close to ultimately tasting victory there. But unfortunately, he also had SVG in his semifinals. Good news is he still has Chase Elliott alive and well for that. But again, he has Joey Logano out, but Eric Jones beat him in the first time. But for us, we're doing okay. We still have a shot to win. Mike Neff is pulling away. He's doing really well right now. It could come down to how far Chase Elliott goes in all of this, really to carry us, because if Briscoe can beat Chase Elliott this week, that will do really good things for you. Or excuse me, if Chase Elliott can beat Chase Briscoe can beat Chase Elliott this week, if I can speak, it'll do really good things for us going forward. So just keep that in mind as we head into the weekend here on there. Rest of our bracket, as you can see if you're watching on the YouTube stream, we're doing our champion, who is Ryan Blaney, still alive, and that's the most important thing. I feel pretty good about that. I think if we had to change the final, I'm going Ryan Blaney. I actually might go Briscoe as it resets. I think Bowman, I don't think you can compare the Alex Bowman run, even though it could be the 32 seed heading all the way to the final again. I don't think you can compare that to Ty Dillon last year, because it is Alex Bowman in a Hendrick Motorsports car. But again, we're going to be rooting heavy for Chase Briscoe, because I think that opens the floor for us to actually get the dub, Caleb.
Okay, I like that. It's been very chalky so far. Not quite what I expected, but also we didn't have a super speedway in the first round, and this week could definitely mess up a lot of people's brackets.
It could indeed. Well, there was a feud this week. Did you hear about it? A couple on the racetrack, but one in particular. We're doing a rare. This might be the first time we've ever done this. It's a 2-for-1 special on the Soundbite of the week.
Nice.
So let's just play both clips, and then we're going to talk about it. SVG and Austin Hill are your focus of the Soundbite of the week.
Well, Tony, what angered you at the end of the race? What did you take issue with?
What the hell do you think I was mad about? Dumb little runs us clear down to the infield. He wants to about everybody else, and he's the one that drives like a little. I'm gonna bust his ass.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
And short track racing.
It's time for the Soundbites of the week.
I'm sure y'all seen the replay, so if I have to explain it, people probably need to get glasses.
You think this is payback for San Diego?
I have no idea.
Will you go talk to him? Will you go talk to him?
I don't know how much I'm going to get out of him.
Is he slow at all or have any incidents that was approaching this slow and working to get in the back?
No, I was entering the corner normal. Everyone blocks everybody's air off, right? That's the way these truck cars are. I was just going down to block his air off, and from my standpoint, it just looked like he sped up. Because
I was shooting for the bottom, trying to get clean air. I was so tight, and he just chopped my nose and got me ill, so sorry about that. Sorry to those guys, they're always nice people, and it's not intentional. No.
Does it warrant a conversation at all with him?
I'll talk to him, but he just grunts.
He just grunts. Shout out to Bruce Springsteen, by the
What
way,
a line.
being the underline. So, Caleb, there was an incident at the track. By the way, Zane Smith got in this too with Carson Husvar. Neither of them said anything to indict them. Obviously, Ryan Preece earlier this year, shout out to Dalton Hopkins, we played the clip, kind of incriminated himself. We'll just put it that way. And he got a points penalty that really has put him, behind the 8 ball when it comes to the cut line, putting him near it. If he doesn't have, I think, 50 points, then he's probably in a lot better shape when it comes to the cut line. Anyways, your thoughts on no penalty for SVG, this situation? What do you think?
I mean, it's the right call based on just the way that NASCAR's always been, but it's the wrong call based on the precedent they set earlier this season. And that's probably the hardest thing that I have, or the hardest time I have with this, is making these kind of inconsistent changes and rulings mid-season is super frustrating. It's something that we've kind of dealt with in the past. It's one thing to set a precedent and continue it through the season. At the end of the year, say, all right, yeah, we messed up this year, but we at least officiated the same. But and I guess, like, technically it's not the same because Preece said something over the radio. But I mean, just saying something over the radio, like what Preece said, like he's going to get it the next time I'm around him. Like, drivers say that all the time. Probably there's at least one driver who says it every race. And so, like, it's just the level. And then in addition to that, like the ruling afterwards of the whole explanation of, in our judgment, the 60 didn't give the 54 a break. Like, that's part of racing. Like, you just don't give breaks to guys sometimes, especially after they've run into you a couple times. And that's why Shane did what he did this week. And so, I think it was the right call to not penalize them. And still, in hindsight, and I don't think anybody in whenever the Preece penalty was handed out, I don't think anybody was like, oh yeah, that's the right thing either. I think you can have levels to this of, if you right hook someone into the fence at an oval, like, that's obviously very dangerous. That warrants a punishment, a suspension for an intentional crash. And you can even, I mean, like what Austin Dillon did, like that's also intentional crashing, just being reckless. But there's a difference between a reckless intentional crash and kind of getting even with someone or taking him back out. Because like, with Hocevar, with all the people that he's run into, it's kind of like he runs into all these people on accident, but then the drivers can't really respond and show their frustration because they're afraid of getting a penalty. And same with SVG. Like, I know Austin Hill's mad about it, but in the mind of SVG fans, and for me as a neutral observer, like, Shane's kind of gotten done dirty by Austin 2 weeks now. And so I feel like hopefully they would just call it even. Now, if they get into more intentional wrecking, that's when NASCAR hopes to step in. Ultimately, I think NASCAR, one of two things. We're a far cry from the boys have at it days, and that might have been a little bit too far as well. But if NASCAR wants to try to penalize any sort of intentional, in their judgment, intentional wrecking, as much as I hate to advocate for more in-race penalties, I think you would need to make this sort of like a Cars Tour rule. Like if you're the one who causes the crash, you get sent to the back of the line. And I know at some tracks that might not seem like a huge penalty, especially like Chicagoland's a track with a lot of passing. If Shane had a faster car, like if it was a guy like Denny Hamlin getting even, taking someone out, he could have made the distance back up. But I think if NASCAR wants to be able to try to get a bit of a handle on it without having to go back and evaluate the S&T data and any sort of radio comments, I think they could just solve it by saying, oh, well, in our judgment, you wrecked this guy intentionally. We're going to send you to the back, maybe hold you a lap, something like that. They have the rough driving penalties. I know that's been enforced a couple times too, but it just feels like there's a lot of inconsistency. Sometimes they'll give the 2-lap penalty in race. Sometimes they'll give a penalty after the race and fine drivers and give them the points penalties. Sometimes they'll just do nothing. So the inconsistency is frustrating. It was the right call, but also like we just gotta shore some things up with those rules and the way that those are viewed and officiated.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I do like the fact that they didn't do anything here. I felt like that was the right call. There's reasonable doubt in this. To me, I don't think, going back to the Priest thing, I don't think Priest should have gotten anything for what happened to him. I think the only time you truly need to punish someone is if it's a right rearing and it's a truly like intent to harm kind of wreck, which is what right rearing is. What SVG did was like, well, you gave me no room and cost me, a race that is very impactful in my season. You're not running for points like X, Y, and Z. And I know Austin's technically running for owners' points, but my point being like points in the season, I'm just not going to cut you a break here. Same thing went with Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar. All right, one more time around. Time for our final thoughts. Let's wrap this podcast up.
It's going to be a drag race all the way back to the start-finish line. No caution. They're side by side, right to the line. Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag.
The checkered flag is out, and it's time for the final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Caleb Barnes, anything you want to rant, rave, or review? The floor is yours.
Well, I guess just speaking of Ryan Preece, I don't know if you might have not have seen, but if you haven't seen, go check out his social media pages. Ryan Preece has a new shirt. It says, "Don't hit the button," and that's just about it. It has his little logo underneath. So I think I love those things, the little funny kind of digs at something that cost you money or a little bit more in Ryan Preece's case. So I love the personality, the energy that Preece and Busher bring to that team with RFK and their dynamics. You see them in the commercials. They're going back and forth a little bit online, some of that fun stuff, and that shirt is just the latest. So little light-hearted moment after, I'm sure he was very frustrated seeing the no penalty announcement yesterday. But hey, as the shirt says, if you're a driver, don't hit the button.
Don't hate the button, indeed. Well, I want to give a shout out to Thomas Annunziata, who's running in the ARCA race at Lime Rock this weekend, and just with Nitro Motorsports. And Chris, can you throw that up there for me? Just a badass of a paint scheme in honor of Kyle Busch. It's the M&M scheme. Obviously, not actually M&M's, but I just want to end with shout out to Thomas Annunziata. He, I believe, is the defending race winner at Lime Rock, if I'm not mistaken. He's also set to, in the ARCA Menard series, he's set to race in the truck series as well. So and as I look, yes, he did. He is the defending race winner at Lime Rock. So really cool deal from Thomas Annunziata to rock this scheme this weekend in a, it feels like ARCA is kind of the only place you can get away with doing this level of a branding, which, because I don't know if Mars approved it, would be my guess. Just gonna throw that out there. I don't think you can do it in a cup car, because it's such an iconic brand. But shout out to Thomas Annunziata. That's a really cool scheme this weekend, and we should have some really cool racing this weekend at Lime Rock in the Truck Series, New York Menards Series. We'll have coverage there. We'll also have coverage at Echo Park Speedway, or Atlanta, like normal people will say it. With a fun race, fun 2 sets of races, another round at Caleb Barnes _. Caleb, are you riding this weekend?
I am not riding this weekend. I'm just going to be
enjoying
no,
the
race. It's Sunday night race. Yeah, I was going to say Saturday night, but it's Sunday night, so I'll be able to enjoy it.
Sunday night football. Psych, it's racing on TNT. Maybe if it goes to Monday, you could buy Nitro Motorsports and WCW Monday Nitro and call it like Monday Racing Nitro. I don't know. So just throwing that out there, TNT. Got ideas for you. Anyways, for Chris Graham, who helped produce this, for Caleb Barnes at Caleb Barnes _. You can follow me at Trey Lyle VT. Make sure you check out Through the Gears. Check out the latest episode of Happy Hour. Check out Stock Car Scoop after the race Sunday night with Eric Schneck and much more. This was this episode of Bringing the Heat. Shout out to Danny Peters as well, who gave us a great interview with Jesse Love. We'll be back next week for some more fun and maybe more boxes behind me. That will do it for us today. Goodbye, everybody.